Hi everybody, welcome to Ecodriver. My name is Helmut. Today we go out on the Ecodriver loop to find out about the consumption of the Volkswagen Polo TSI. It's the 1 liter 3-cylinder turbo engine with 70 kilowatts, 95 horsepower. Unladen weight is 1,133 kilograms or 2,449 pounds. WLTP consumption is rated 5.2 liters per 100 kilometers and NEPT is 4.5. When we look at SpritMonitor.de, that's a website where users of any car can enter their consumption details, and then you see what they use in real life. The average is 5.77 for this very vehicle, and the range goes from 5.0 to 7.09. We have a 5-speed manual gearbox, and yeah, apart from that, it's a pretty straightforward basic car. The route we're doing, I'll show you here. In case you haven't seen it yet, or you are new to this channel, we start on the southern outskirts of Innsbruck, go out of town for about a mile, 1.5 kilometers, on a 30 kilometers per hour zone. Then we start a climb, which elevates us around 360 meters, 1,100 feet, followed by some rolling hills, a descent, mixed roads with speed limits ranging from 20 to 62 miles per hour, 30 to 100 kilometers per hour. Motorway, and at the end, 18 kilometers, 11 miles of city traffic. The cameras will be on all the time. A, to show how am I driving in order to achieve the consumption that we will have at the end, and B, to prove that there is no need to go extra slow in order to drive efficiently. After every section, the ones I've told you before, we check the overall and sectoral consumption, and at the end we analyze the whole data. I hope you enjoy this. Weather isn't too good today, hopefully it doesn't start raining. But yeah, I hope you enjoy this, and I'll talk to you later. Coming to the end of the climb, we see here 8.7 liters per 100 kilometers. Yes, I take the consumption from the board computer. You know my videos, I do 2 videos a week, and it simply would exceed my budget to fill every car up with gas and then do the loop and then fill up again. You see here this car is half empty, and others are 3/4 empty. So yes, it's the board computer, but as the ADAC found out, most board computers give you a higher consumption than a lower one, so therefore it's not too much of a problem. With this car, the engine has a distinct characteristic for a turbo engine from about 1900 2000 RPMs. The engine develops some power, and therefore you have to keep it at revs if you need the power. For example, on the uphill, yes, you need power, then you need to rev up, but as soon as it's flat or goes slightly downhill, you can shift and bring the revs down, and this will reduce the consumption. We are now approaching the hills, and on hilly roads it's important to play with the road, use the gradient or the change of gradient of the road to your advantage, accelerate or build up some momentum on the way down, and use this momentum, this stored kinetic energy, on the next flat or uphill section. .7 liters per 100 kilometers at the end of the hills. We're now approaching the descent, and there it's important to avoid the use of energy by stepping on the gas pedal. We have help by gravity. It pulls us down, so therefore we can try to avoid stepping on the gas pedal. We have two flat sections, and there I try to cross them without any, or to pass them without any use of additional energy. It might well be that I need to step on the clutch to avoid the braking through the engine, although it's cutting the injection off, so therefore we don't use any additional fuel. But sometimes it's better to just keep the car coasting instead of stepping on the gas pedal. Unfortunately, it started raining, but it doesn't seem too bad. The roads are not really wet yet, and we'll see how it develops. We come to the end of the descent, and we have 4.8 liters per 100 kilometers. You may have noticed I stepped on the clutch a couple of times in order to keep the vehicle coasting without any braking resistance by the engine, and therefore to avoid stepping on the gas pedal to use additional power. We're now approaching the mixed road section with speeds from 30 to 100 kilometers an hour, and let's hope we don't have those slow vehicle movers in front of us, as we often do. We go through some villages and towns, and with some faster sections in between. Typical roads of the motorway. We are now coming to the end of the open road section, the mixed roads, and we see here 4.3 liters per 100 kilometers. We had some slower traffic in front of us most of the time, but then it's important to keep a bit of a distance, a bit of a gap, and so you can adjust your speed, often without braking, just by lifting your foot off the accelerator, and therefore avoid braking and reaccelerating. On the motorway we are restricted to 100 kilometers per hour. As per national environmental law, with an EV you would be allowed to go faster, but we don't have an EV, so therefore we only go 100. We're now coming to the end of the motorway, and we see 4.2 liters per 100 kilometers on the dashboard. It was very quiet on the motorway, it was quite nice to drive. We're now coming to the last section of the day, which is the city section, and here it's important to try to read the roads, anticipate what other road users are doing, try to avoid braking, and therefore re-accelerating, and keep the vehicle in motion, as acceleration always costs a lot of energy. If you accelerate, do it with low revs and high load, but as I said, try to avoid it in the first place. If you have a start-stop automatic, as we have here, so the engine goes off when you come to a standstill, make sure that the engine stays off, that you don't play with the clutch or the gears, and therefore trigger the engine to start. Well, at the end of the trip on the Ecodriver loop with the Volkswagen Polo TSI, we see 4.3 liters per 100 kilometers. And now the details. Well, now let's have a quick look at the data of our trip with the Volkswagen Polo TSI. You see here the detailed overall and sectoral consumption. 3.7 on the mixed road, 4 on the motorway. Yeah, that's really good. And 4.4 and 4.6 respectively on the hills and city. It's also not too bad. And here we see the complete table with all the petrol cars I've tested so far. But I can't stress this enough. The car gives you the opportunity to do it. At the end, it's down to the driver to bring it home, to really drive efficiently. And especially with this car, or with this type of cars, small engine, manual gearbox, in this case only 5 gears, and maybe with the 6th gear we could have had another 1/10 of a liter better consumption. But with these cars, it's required to work with the gear stick. You need to shift a lot, you need to keep the revs down. Staying in the same gear over a wider range of speed means that you don't get good economy, because then per definition you're outside of the most efficient range of the engine most of the time. And yes, if you need power, then you need to rev up a bit, but revving up doesn't mean going up to 5,000 or 6,000. Revving up in my case means maybe over 2,000, and still you have enough power. And unless you are a race driver, then probably, yes, if you're a race driver and you have a Volkswagen Polo TSI, then you're probably not a very good race driver. But in normal traffic, in normal life, under normal circumstances, there is no need to rev the engine up, because during, I don't know, 99.9% of time when you're driving, you don't need the maximum power output of the engine. Even if it's only 70 kilowatts, most of the time you only need a small number of kilowatts low power output, and then you can keep the revs down. And there's no harm if you occasionally rev the engine up to accelerate a little bit quicker on the motorway entrance, or if you overtake another vehicle. But most of the time you can keep the revs down. It's quieter, it's better for the engine. And no, low revs do not harm the engine. As long as it doesn't rattle and there is no strange noise coming from the engine, or black smoke out of the exhaust, you don't do anything bad to the engine. Modern engines are made for revs starting from 11, 12, 1300 RPMs. If you generally want to know how to drive ICE cars more efficiently, I have done a video with my 5 tips how to do so. And down here you find the playlist with all my consumption videos I have done with petrol cars. That's it for the Volkswagen Polo TSI. Thanks for watching. Take care. See you next time.